Volthoom may have taken his life, but the core gave him another. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the Platinum Edition Solomon Baz Power Ring. He was once a getaway driver with a fearsome reputation until he took a job delivering a bomb to a concert. Arriving at the venue, Solomon relented, unable to bring himself to blow up the young concert-goers. Questioning his identity and overcome with insecurity, Solomon was soon selected to become the new host and victim of the Ring of Volthoom. When his life was inevitably consumed by the ring, Solomon joined the other deceased ring bearers of the Power Ring core in the Green Realm. There he remained, buried in the dirt, until called upon to face his Earth-Zero counterparts. Doppelgangers with rings. They can do some dangerous things. How about before we see the things that he can actually do with his ring, let's take the tape measure and see how tall Solomon Baz stands. Not Simon Baz. This is the evil version of him. We're going to take the tape measure and we're going to go right to the very top of his head. And while I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that made this review possible by providing the sample we're looking at. Solomon Baz actually is going to stand the same as Simon. He's 7 inches in height, or roughly about 17.5 centimeters tall. As for Simon, yeah, we already had a look at him. I'm going to slide over the Platinum Edition Power Ring. Get him to actually stand here. I don't know why he's not. There we go. And let's bring in the original Green Lantern member, Simon Baz. Same mold, essentially the same identity, other than just, again, a different coat of paint. You can see one of the smart things that they actually did was not only being that they're using the swappable faceplates, gives us a different expression right out of the packaging, but also as well, it looks like because a lot of their cosmetic changes were only just cosmetic, it means they can drastically change the suit with just a different coat of paint. Unfortunately, because he is a Platinum Edition, it means that Solomon has the same accessories as Simon. The figure, first of all, comes included with a trading card. Now, this is the same card that we get with Simon, which would be fine if they had a different read-up on the back. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't. This would be normally a time where I would say that you don't even have to read this because I've already read it at the beginning of the review. This time, though, I didn't. I actually took the background information for Solomon from DC Database. A shout out to DC Database because I wasn't going to be able to find anything about Solomon on the back of Simon's card, which essentially is the exact same card. Now, you also get as well the exact same display stand. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be crying foul for the fact that we get the exact same stand because we get always the same stands. But because this is also the polished treatment, we get also the DC logo done in silver instead of just the black. The figure also comes included the exact same accessories. So if you're familiar with the stuff that comes with Simon, you're familiar already with the things that come included with Solomon. The figure comes included, first of all, with his Green Lantern. Now, I'm going to bring in the one that we got here from Simon, exactly the same. Which is fine because I can borrow this around to other Green Lanterns too. It doesn't have to necessarily belong to Simon and Solomon solely. No, yeah, I can probably use this with other Green Lantern figures. The plastic itself, we already talked about. I mean, we're probably going to be covering off the lay of the land. I mean, if you're experiencing the sense of deja vu, you're going to be experiencing a lot of that when we look at like the faceplates and the accessories. The plastic, though, for the lantern is pretty soft, pretty malleable. But a nice overall like lantern. There's no fault at all. I wouldn't really complain about the fact that we actually get ourselves another lantern because it doesn't have to necessarily be used with Simon or Solomon. I might even just, in fact, maybe use this with Hal Jordan instead. I don't know. The figure also does come included with this gauntlet, and I'm going to, again, be doing this a lot with all these accessories. I'm going to bring in the one from Simon, exactly the same. Hey, this would have been also perfect if they had found a way to mirror flip this. So you could have had a gauntlet on this side, you could have had a gauntlet on this side. Instead, you can't. Because, of course, the thumbs will always be on the exact same side. There's no way of fooling. You could put it on the other side if you want to, but you will know. You'll secretly know that you're not fooling anybody. The detail can't be overlooked, obviously, for what they've sculpted here. Even though it's being done here in translucent green plastic, it still looks fantastic. He also comes included with the drill bit hand. And all these hands, by the way, or all the accessories, I should say, really kind of work better with this hand because the hand is a little on the more smaller side. If you see my review of Simon, again, it carries over here as well for Solomon. The same drill bit attachment also came included with Simon. I'm going to hope that I'm not going to be mixing up the names over the course of this review. Simon, Solomon, they sound pretty similar. They both also start with S. Anyways, you get the drill bit attachment. You also as well get the exact same hammer. The hammer can also fit obviously in his hand, but the thing I mentioned also with Simon carries over here for Solomon. It does look like the head of the hammer is a separate piece of plastic than the rest of the handle. And again, this whole time of talking about this, obviously out of the packaging, the figure does have a gripping hand, and then he has a ring-bearing hand. So already you'll know right away which hand holds the hammer. If you were to guess this side, you'd be wrong. I hate to say it. I hate to draw everybody out, and like everybody's going to be looking at you right now, but you're wrong. You can't do anything. You can't do any holding at all with the hand that he has on this side. So all the hand holding things will be obviously on this side. That would be the hammer. That would be also as well the lantern. All the other things, by the way, though, like the drill bit, can just... Yeah, when you are putting in place, though, if you look at it, I don't know if I spent a whole lot of time talking about this when we looked at Simon's, you can definitely see that there's a distinct shape on the top. It's not just a perfect circle. So when you're putting on his hand, you'll notice that one way doesn't really quite work. You have to kind of turn it around, and it fits. It seems to fit just a little bit better. I say that now. Anyways, it does fit onto his hands. I think I might just end up doing it where I display perhaps Solomon with this accessory, just because it's a meaner looking construct, and maybe keep the more, I don't want to say like the tamer things to be included with Simon, have it displayed with that figure. And of course, if you wanted to, you can take yourself I mean, this is an easy one to figure out. It's just basically that the thumbs are going to be facing upward like this. But the Infinity Gauntlet, if you will, is probably the easiest thing to attach onto his hand. Let's just remove those accessories right now. Now, also, too, because the figure does have the exact same mold, he's also sharing the exact same swappable faceplates. Now, out of the packaging, he already comes with pretty much that faceplate that I would want to use when it comes to displaying the figure. I like the kind of more sinister look for his face. If we grab the one that came included with Simon's, no, it's not that one. No, it's not that one. It's this one right here. The only thing that's really different, obviously, is a different coat of paints, but also that the Power Ring version of Solomon doesn't have pupils. You can see that Simon does. I think it was a little meaner of a face for, I think, for Simon, but I think it works perfectly for Solomon. Now, he has that head sculpt. He also has this one, which is a pretty good one to go with, too. Kind of a bit of a cocky smile. I think that would work really well with a character like Power Ring. He also has that one, and he also has just a defaulted face. All of them are missing pupils. You won't find it at all with this one. But if you wanted to, you could technically take the faceplate off this one, just to show you guys that it is using the exact same. I'm going to use the one that we got here for Simon. All it is there's a hole right here. Looks kind of just strange really without it. And there's the peg right there. Just line the two up. Same mold, same use of faceplates. So if you want to mix and match, you really could technically do that. I mean, hey, why not? Let's bring back in Simon. Just get him to stand here for a second. You could take Simon's, just remove his faceplate, and mix and match. Just like that. Crisscross applesauce, swap them out. Crisscross applesauce probably doesn't make as much sense here, but at least you get the idea. You can change the faceplates, really, if you wanted to. So let's just put them back the way that we left it. Last thing I would want to do is have this guy displayed with the wrong face. Is that Nicolas Cage? Maybe John Travolta? I don't know. Let's move that off to the side. And then, obviously, let's put back on the proper faceplate. So while he loses, obviously, a little bit of the darker green, the outlining, the brighter green, what he gets treated to instead is the white faceplate. And let's just grab, yeah, that's a good head to go with. Pop that back in place. As for the rest of the bodies, because again, like there's very little tooling that was required for the bodies themselves, like even with the original insignia for Green Lantern, because it wasn't actually a raised piece to the mold, it means that so easily they could take essentially the exact same mold and just use it not only just for Simon and Solomon, but also, yeah, this mold could be easily used again for down the road. I mean, I can already think right away that would be a perfect body for like a Wildcat, even a Superman. I know we already have enough Supermans already, but, you know, like that's a good building block, a good mold to start with when it comes to other DC Multiverse figures down the road. Like Wildcat right away is the one I was kind of really thinking about. So, like, because of there's no additional tooling that's required, no sculpting over top of the layer of the build of the body, it's so easy for them just to print whatever they want to print on the front. So instead what we get is not so much the Green Lantern symbol, but we get the Power Ring symbol instead. It's fairly accurate to the way it looks in the comics. The white is nicely done, though. I mean, one of the things I really think that could be a problem generally with white paint when you're putting it on top of plastic is there's always the worry that there's going to be bleed underneath, that you could probably see and look at that and say, you know, I don't know, probably could have used another coat of paint. I'm not looking at that. I'm not thinking to myself, it needs a second coat of paint. It's painted well here in the shoulders. It's certainly painted well here in front of the body. Very clean lines, too. There's nothing at all that I'm looking at here, and I'm thinking, boy, they made a mistake. Maybe there's a little bit of white that's bleeding down on the side, but other than that, like, it looks good. Of course, it does still have the socket joints on the sides. Now, these aren't so much joints as they are basically concealment joints. When you are moving like his arms about, for example, it's obviously going to be breaking up the seamless look for the line. What they've done here, though, is if you have the arms in a neutral position, It continues somewhat the same form, and they've just done it in white. Initially, I kind of thought like that would have looked better in black, but then it would have just cut the section between the shoulders and the torso. White would have to have been the better route to have gone. But all in all, like, it's a good-looking figure. I really liked the mold initially when we looked at Simon. I think, like, now when we get Solomon Baz, like, just as a power ring, an evil doppelganger for Simon, the mold not only works really well for him, but they painted it really well, too. The one thing that you'll also see, too, is that his arm has a little bit of, like, the markings here on the side. I'd have to go back and, like, look at the comics. I don't know if that's supposed to be a tattoo, or if he does have, like, unfinished, like, you can almost even see, like, there's a little bit of either paint that's just been smudged across the plastic, or, again, if it's intentional, I have to go again back and look at the comics. Now, with Simon had the tattoo marking on the interior of his forearm. Solomon doesn't have that. He just has all these, like, smudgings on his one arm. I gotta feel like it's intentional, because if you look at his other arm is completely clean. Again, the only other paint that you're pretty much going to be getting here is down below here in his boots. Again, the white's really done well here, and add some nice additional lining of the green on top of that. It's a very clean looking figure. For the figure's articulation, if you're familiar with Simon, you'll be familiar with Solomon. Head's going to be on the exact same system. So the head's on a ball joint. It's going to allow the head to rotate all the way around. It can look down quite low, up high as well, and you can also rock it back for too. Shoulders easily rotate all the way around. Easily as well. You can bring them out at 90 degrees, even probably a little bit more than 90 degrees. There is a bicep swivel, of course there is, double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. Just before we move actually further forward, I want to also show you guys what the ring looks like. I mean, it's essentially, I mean, it's sculpted there, but it's really hard to kind of make out that that looks like a ring. Meanwhile, though, the upper torso is on a very generous ball joint. Equally as well, there's a ball joint at the base for the abdomen. Now, when you're looking at the legs, just above the legs and just before the torso and the legs, you can see, like, his trunks. It's the only other thing I really wish that they could have done differently. The trunks are more of a matte black, and yet, though, you can see the torso is a shinier black, and down below, of course, the legs are a shinier black. It disrupts just a little bit of what normally would be a seamless look to the figure's body, just because they use the more matte, softer plastic for his torso. It's the only other thing I probably would have changed to that, but again, like, the legs do split out. You can bring them forward, you can bring them back. There's a swivel there at the top of the thigh, double hinge on the knee. No articulation at all for the boot. However, there's an ankle pivot, there's an ankle rocker, and Solomon Baz. I'm so glad I haven't yet botched this. Solomon Baz does have, again, toe articulation there as well. Is it a good figure? Yes, it is. I mean, to be fair, it was a good figure already when we looked at Simon before. Still, though, I feel plagued that I can't get this guy to stand ever. It's almost like the figure does need a display stand. Oh, right, yeah, he does. Anyways, though, bringing back in Simon. This worked also better as well because I wanted to look at these figures separately. It wasn't just, again, a case like, yes, it is really essentially the same mold, but it isn't like a Malibu Stacy where we're simply just giving him a completely different hat. In the comics, he exists as a doppelganger. He exists as a doppelganger, just Simon. So realistically, I mean, if you're going to get any mileage out of a mold, why not take a character that's a doppelganger? It works for Flash when we have Reverse Flash. It works very well when you have Solomon and Simon Baz. Two figures that essentially are sharing the exact same mold. Two figures that are sharing somewhat the exact same, well, they are sharing the exact same accessories. The only other thing I would say is, while it doesn't bother me as much that they're sharing the same weapons, I really wish that they could have not shared the exact same cards. Had they only found a way to just digitally change, perhaps, like instead of the mask being green, maybe they made it white instead. But at the very least, maybe had they just changed the read up on the back so that it wasn't Simon on both cases, because it clearly isn't Simon when you get two figure releases like this. I tried to look online to see if I could find comic artwork of Solomon Baz, just to see if the smudging on his arm was correct or not. Sure enough, whatever images I could find all had Solomon standing, but his one arm was dark like that. But I don't know if that was just intentionally or if it was just because there was shadow cast on that one side of his body. However, though, I did look up online other images of this figure, and it seems that whatever pictures I've been able to find all reinstate the same idea, that smudging is there intentionally, not accidental. Or if it was accidental, it seems to be on more copies than just mine. If you are familiar enough with the character, let me know down below in the comments section if the darkness on his only one side of his arm is supposed to be there or not. Other than that, though, obviously the figure is sharing the exact same body as Simon. That's not a bad thing at all. If you're going to have a doppelganger, then it makes the most sense that he's going to be obviously using the exact same body as the hero he's based from. It worked for Flash. It works really well for Simon here, too. Admittingly, though, I would have loved if this guy could have had different accessories than came included with Simon. Just because they're sharing the exact same things, at least he has enough of them that Simon can have his fair share of accessories and Solomon can have his. The only thing that's a little disappointing is that the card has the exact same name. I mean, yeah, the read-up could have probably also been copied over, but at the very least, if the real name of Simon Baz could have been only changed to Solomon, even if the read-up at all has nothing to do with Solomon, at least it would make me feel like the cards were a little bit different from one another, but they are identical. Everything about this figure, from the body to the accessories to the trading card to the display stand, are identical, but that's not a bad thing at all, considering that we already started with a good figure to work with. What do you guys think of Solomon Baz? More importantly, Power Ring. Let me know down below in the comments. Big thank you again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Platinum Edition Green Lantern Core Power Ring that we can have a look at in this review. If you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid, throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell, but the most important thing is that you're coming back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.